I have been excited about this morning's My Calling presentation since I scheduled Dawn. As the father of a little girl, we were extremely blessed to have three primary wonderful babysitters. Shelley Border was one. Chrissy Mann, now Chrissy Ambrose, was the second. And Dawn Call, now Dawn Mizinski, was the third. And I learned early on that Dawn is dependable, reliable. When she was in junior high and high school and babysitting for us, was and into college, was one of the hardest working people I have ever met. And we watched her run cross country when she was at Harding High School out at Como Park one day, and watched her make her way through. Did you go to Inver Grove?
Nope.
Where'd you go?
I did most of my generals at Century.
At Century.
And then transferred out to Anoka-Ramsey.
Oh, that's right. No, that's where I knew it was. Anyway, we watched her make her way through school, and I just said to Matthew this morning, because when I came down the side aisle walking toward the sacristy, there was the biggest, brightest smile in the world waiting for me. Just talk about infectious smile. So anyway, Dawn is a delivery room nurse at United Hospital, and has been for quite a number of years. 17 years. And I'll tell you one more story about Dawn. Carolyn could tell this better than I. Dawn was a part of our youth group. And we made a trip to the Boundary Waters. And it was, I made several trips with this church's youth group to the Boundary Waters, and I think you were on the first trip from hell, where it rained, not all day, every day, but it rained some every day. And if you've been canoeing in the Boundary Waters, you know that doesn't just mean traveling on the water. You got a tote. And with young kids, it's a struggle because they can't always carry their weight, so that for the old man, that means a lot of extra work. Well, Dawn, who was one of the smallest people on the trip, carried a canoe, which was unbelievable. I thought somebody else was carrying your canoe, and Carolyn's. I almost killed Carolyn because we had rain every day. And we came down this steep portage into Sawbill Lake, and it was raining. You couldn't see 50 feet. And I said to her, this was the last day, and I said to her, it's like 9 o'clock in the morning. I said to her, Carolyn, in 3 hours of canoeing, we could be taking hot showers and sleeping in a real bed tonight. And she said, we promised these kids 4 nights in a tent. And if I didn't know the kids were coming behind me and there would be witnesses to the crime, I could have But anyway, Dawn, I just have so much admiration for Dawn, so much respect. I'm just thrilled. I think we're thrilled that you're willing to share today about your calling. So we're all yours.
So I do have to apologize. I hate talking in front of groups. It took me 10 years just over calling doctors on the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning saying you need to come in. So, I've been a labor and delivery nurse for 17 years, most of that at United. I am now also working at St. John's. Due to some of the politics and the nursing strike this past year, which has been kind of a burden a little bit, I picked up my second job there. So I currently work at United 4 days in a 2-week period. And then at St. John's, I have to pick up 6 shifts a month there. So I kind of work it around my United schedule at the current time. Eventually, I will probably be leaving United,
Oh.
sad to say, but St. John's, 10 minutes from my house, great commute. Don't have to pay for parking. I do love both places. That being said, so I started out my nursing career at United. Always, ever since I was a little person, even though I'm still a little person, have been wanting to be a nurse. I've gotten a lot of help with getting pushed in the right directions as far as getting into programs. So I currently, labor and delivery is a very fast-paced place. You can go from a good to a bad situation in 60 seconds. I've been in the good, I've been in the bad. I love my job most and foremost. I love my patients, I love working with people. It's the best place to work, I believe. You don't have to work with a lot of sick people, but you get to see the good, most of the time, the good outcomes of somebody bringing their little ones into the world. Personal experience of mine is I have 2 boys. Of course, Matthew is the one who read this morning. He's the oldest, and he is 7. No, he's 10. He's 10. And then Henry, who has been battling ear infections for a long time now, has been at home on some antibiotics, not feeling the greatest, and he's 7. Also, a little bit in between those 2, and it's a little harder to talk. But I have also had a little girl. I was 7 months pregnant when I found out that she had passed away. And pastor knows about this. 2 pastors did the ceremony and everything. So when it comes to people having good experiences and bad experiences, I can relate to all of them. I have people send me cards with pictures of their family that I've been a part of their journeys with. Even with the harder experiences, I still keep going back. I feel that I can bring something to them. I can help them get through the harder times, even with the better times. I've kind of grown with all the experiences I've come through, especially the bad ones. I work with a great group of nurses that I work at night, so there's not as much staff in the night shift. You don't see doctors rounding all the time. When you need someone for help, you're calling. There's always a nice doctor on call. Nice is loosely. But there's if you go from those good to those bad experiences, where there's always a doctor. If you need someone in there, you have a great charge nurse that's calling. You push on a button. You have 50 people in your room asking you what you need, what's going on, kind of thing. I've got more good experiences than bad experiences in my experience. But, and most of my experience, like I said, is at United. Now, I just transitioned over to St. John's. It's more of a holistic caring atmosphere, which we have tried to integrate some of that at United. It's still in the process, but at St. John's, it's also a nice, open and warm feeling. When I first got into nursing, especially in the labor and delivery aspect, I worked on a unit that there was people that were still pregnant, that were preterm, we would call preterm. We're trying to keep them pregnant for longer to give that baby a better chance. And then we also had 8 rooms at that time where you would actually have laboring patients in. and then you'd labor, you'd deliver it in that room, and then they actually stayed in that room the whole time until they went home. United transitioned out of that after 10 years working there with them. So everything is now done in one huge room. They remodeled, beautiful place, huge room, everybody's got room now. It's where you deliver in one room, you recover there for 2 hours, and then you get sent to a different room for the rest of your time there. They also remodeled those rooms, so you're not going to a closet, which is another nice thing.
So you're not, I didn't hear what you said, so you're not going to what?
A closet.
Oh, that's the funny part.
We're very small. You had a bed, you had the little bassinet where the baby would sleep, and maybe a chair for dad to sleep in. Now these rooms are like 3 times the size. So you've got mom's bed, you've got the bassinet, you've got a couch that actually pulls out, and that has a nice sleeping area. But one thing I didn't really like when they transitioned to that is I really liked staying with the patients. You know, you deliver them, you get to know them, you build this great rapport. And then you're like, say, sorry, I've got to bring you over to this other nurse now. As now at St. John's, they have those rooms, they're called LDRPs, labor, delivery, postpartum, and recovery are the rooms, and they deliver, stay in there. And I kind of like going back to that, because you get to stay with your patients, you get to help them experience what they're having breastfeeding issues, you help them get things going the right direction, you support them in every aspect. Going from the beginning of laboring to going home with their baby, making sure they have education, and if they have any questions, you want to send them home with whatever they need. And letting them know if there's phone numbers, if they have questions, that they can call for help. And so that's kind of what I do.
Dawn, why did United switch that practice?
I think it all had to do with money. Basically, they've also used to also say 48 hours after vaginal delivery in the hospital. They are now trying to get you out at 36 or earlier hours, as far as getting the room turned around, getting somebody in, getting more money, kind of thing. A lot of it, I think, had to do with money aspect, and again, a lot of the older nurses in labor and delivery there didn't like the aspect of having to do postpartum patients, and those are delivered patients, and having to do all that extra teaching and stuff with that.
And Dawn, does it reduce staffing as well? Or is it about the same staffing either way you have it organized? Can you tell?
Well, I know both places, it's a staffing issue with everything, depending on the shifts and stuff like that. At St. John's, with having the staff for the labor and delivery and stuff like that all in one, you sometimes have to adjust to where you may deliver your patients and recover them for 2 hours and have to give them away because someone without the nursing skills or set needs to take over on another labor patient. St. John's, the way they have it, you have to have 2 specialties. One being a labor and delivery nurse and postpartum, or you're a special care nursery and a postpartum nurse. So if you need the skill for the labor and delivery nurse and you have a special care nursery nurse that is doing postpartum, you can transfer that patient over because you can't have that nurse take over on the laboring patient. But also with staffing-wise at United, there's 2 different numbers at United. How many nurses are you going to need on postpartum for this many patients, whereas how many nurses do you need in the labor and delivery department for the triaging, people coming in and out, the preterms and stuff like that. So it's also a number crunch issue because on postpartum you can have 3 to 4 moms and babies as your assignment, whereas in labor and delivery, if you are having a labor patient that's in active labor, it's a 1-to-1. if you have one that's just being induced or getting surgical rare things, saying you're trying to get them ready to get them into labor, you can have 1 to 2. So numbers wise, you don't need as many postpartum nurses as you do labor nurses, but depending on what the workflow is, and that kind of shifts as things go with that.
Back to your decision to be a nurse.
Mhm.
When you were a child, was there something that happened that opened that door, this might be a good career for me, or?
I don't
know?
think so.
Did you know nurses?
I didn't know any nurse. I did when my first real job, and actually it was my first job ever. Nobody at McDonald's would hire me, even at 14, 15, or 16. So I ended up, my mother worked at a group home with mentally challenged and handicapped young adults to adults. And I got a job there when I was 16. A lot of physical labor, working in a group home. But working with those kids and those young adults, I really enjoyed it to that fact. So then I just kind of went with, I think I want to help people. And it just kind of progressed from there.
Wow.
Kind of.
Thank you.
I don't know if you know the statistics, but how many babies are born at United as opposed to St. John's in a year?
Good question. There, we kind of track months,
Okay.
kind of thing. In a month, our normal range at United is like 350, 360. Coming to look at the numbers at St. John's, it can run anywhere between 250 to 300.
Okay.
How's St. John's is different as far as the whole thing? Do they do much with, I know Woodlands is very big into aromatic. And,
No, they're the same. They're
Okay.
that's part of the Healthy
Yep.
mission.
So tell me, what does that entail? I guess I'm looking for more information about it.
At St. John's, besides offering the normal medicated deliveries where you get an epidural or you get IV medication, we offer them aromatherapy. Being, we have oils that we can put on cotton balls and use that for pain management, guided imagery, getting them to help relax, visualizing different relaxing situations, massage therapy, a lot of massages to kind of help relieve some backache or counter pressure, different position changes. Whereas if you medication, pretty much you're restricted to the bed until this baby comes out. If we can get people up and moving and trying to change different positions, help them progress through their labor a little faster. They also do more water births at the Healthy System than we do at United, where you can get to, if they're in active labor, which active labor we call as for at least 4 centimeters, and they're contracting on a regular basis, that you can get them into this birthing tub, where it tends to help people relax a little bit. And if you relax enough, your body does the work, kind of progresses in a faster pace, and then the doctor would come in and have a nice baby and have baby right next to mom.
So which do you find easier? Medicated birth or going the other way?
I think it's a 50-50. It kind of depends. I really like people coming in and trying to do what they want. I like people moving around. I don't restrict people to anything. They tell me what they want. Okay, I'm going with what their plan is. Plans change for people. They try it one way and they say they don't like it that way, then go the other way, kind of thing. I find that people that end up getting medicated first, and this is just my experience, tend to labor longer because some of the medications do tend to slow contractions down or drop blood pressures, where we have to start getting them different medications, kind of thing, to where you have to start other medication to get their labor back on track, kind of thing. Also, it takes longer because if with an epidural, you become numb. You can't feel your legs. So trying to push a baby out and not feeling where you're pushing because you can't feel your butt, kind of thing. It
Problematic.
It does.
I
Kind of thing. But the more you can get people to change and move around, even if they end up going from, okay, I want to sit in the tub, or I want to use this birthing ball, or I want to do a lot of walking or dancing in the room, or whatever they want to do, if they end up changing and saying, oh, I need something just to take the edge off, or I don't think I can do this anymore, you go with what they want. Okay. There are times where, yes, you're at what we call transition, and usually if you're at that point, you're feeling lots of pressure and the baby's coming, but they just really can't handle it anymore and they just feel like they're out of control. You want to give them something, they want something, you try it. You do let them know that even if we can get this epidural in, you may end up delivering your baby before it even takes effect, kind of thing.
Okay.
But a lot of people come in with birth plans saying, okay, this is who I want in the room with me, this is what I want medication, or I want to do this without anything. Yes, they do change their mind. I do.
Forget the whole thing.
I bet you get those.
Yes, we get those. I kind of go with the flow, whatever they tell me. I walk into a situation, either I come in and think, oh, this patient's being induced because she's at this gestation. She's term. Term for us is anywhere 39 to 41 weeks, we call term. Anything before that is a little early term, but they come to me and do, we get them admitted. We go through, what are you planning on for your labor? Do you have a pediatrician? Do you plan on breastfeeding, bottle feeding? What are your preferences? Do you want to move around, kind of thing? This is what the doctor wants. How do you feel about this? You want to make sure, people come in, oh yeah, I'm being induced, and I'm like, okay, well, this is what they've ordered, this is what it's going to do. This is what your plan is. How does this fit into your plan? Some patients come in and I really don't want to be induced. I don't feel like it's time to have this baby, kind of thing. And we kind of talk about, okay, we make sure baby looks great on the monitor. We put little monitors on, we check the heartbeat, we put a little pressure sensitive monitor on to see if she's having contractions. What does her contractions look like? Can we even start any medication because of what her contractions haven't looked like? If you start getting contractions too close together, you start stressing the baby out. That's not one thing we want to do, kind of thing. So plans change all the time. I just go with flow. I know there's a lot of older nurses that are like, okay, you're at this point, you can't have anything. Whereas patient satisfaction kind of goes out the door. That's another thing that the hospital is always into, patient satisfaction. You get sent out these surveys after, how was your experience? Okay, well, if you have a really crappy experience, you're going to tell them you had a crappy experience, and then management comes back to us and starts saying, okay, we need to improve these scores, what can we do, kind of thing. Management doesn't really respond to how we answer those. Again, it's a lot of politics.
Who knows what you think, Dawn?
You're going to have the patients that just love their experience. And, okay, yeah, they'll send their survey back saying, oh, yeah, great experience, this is... Come back, I recommend this to anybody. You're going to have that worst experience ever. They're definitely going to send that survey back and saying, nope, I will never come here again. And, it's like management only hears the negatives more than the positives. And it always brings it back to the staff, the negatives. And then we're supposed to fix everything. When they're cutting staff, you're short staffed, we don't have the resources. But it's always put on us, kind of thing.
And you can't take the pain away.
No, that too.
You're not a miracle worker.
And I always tell the patients, there's always going to be some discomfort. Even with an epidural, where people, oh, this is great, you're going to start feeling pressure. you're gonna need that, 'cause you're gonna have to feel that to push your baby out, kind of thing. But then you always get back, I don't want to feel anything. Well, then you never have a baby. Because you're always gonna feel something, kind of thing.
What was the smallest baby and the largest one you recall being born when you were on duty?
For me,
Yeah.
okay, the biggest baby did not come out vaginally that I've had. Baby was 10 pounds, 5 ounces.
Okay.
This was a little short.
Yeah.
No matter what, this
Yeah.
baby wasn't. But we tried everything,
Yep.
you know. She pushed for 3 hours, and this kid wasn't coming.
Oh.
And she's like, okay, I'm done, let's just go.
Yep.
And she was totally fine. Healthy, baby girl. Great. Smallest baby, you know, pretermers are usually
Yeah.
the ones that come out the smallest. I think the smallest that I had been in with was 4 pounds even. Of course, those little pretermers always go to the NICU, the
Yeah.
neonatal intensive care unit. And after they come out, we don't really get any information
Yeah.
on how they do unless we talk to parents
Yeah.
and stuff
Mhm.
like that. But evidently, that little one did great. It wasn't, evidently, I do get cards from her mom. And of course, it had to be another girl.
Yep.
Almost on a yearly basis.
Okay.
And I get some pictures, and they tell me how well they're doing.
I was 4'6".
Oh, so you were a little.
4 pounds, 6 ounces.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
And went clear below 4. And spent 5 weeks in the hospital. I was 6 weeks early.
Mm-hmm.
But my grandfather said, she's not gonna make it home, you baptize us. So I was baptized in the hospital. Do you run into that too?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Very good.
We get, there is always a chaplain on call,
Okay.
or in the hospital.
Sure.
Not necessarily on the night shift,
Now,
but you can call and they will come,
Mhm.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
If that's what the patients want,
sure.
they express their wish to be, get someone there for them.
Well, see, small people turn out okay anyway.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great spot.
That being said, my youngest, Henry, who is 7, came 4 weeks early.
Okay.
He was supposed to be a planned C-section
Oh.
2 weeks prior to this, but I evidently ended up going into labor at work. All of my kids, I was at work.
Oh, so handy.
So yeah,
So they left you on your own, huh?
Yeah. Well, I was paying no attention. With him, I was contracting all the time. I'm like just sitting there doing my job, you know, and there's only 2.
Did you get extra pay for that?
No, I didn't. How about that? Jeez. No, he came out 4 weeks early, so he was 36 weeks on him. So he came out after midnight.
But what did he weigh?
He was 5'12"
Wow.
when he came out.
Okay.
He didn't want to breathe when he came out.
yeah.
He was a slacker, I call him. And him being a C-section, because all of my babies came out C-section since my body wasn't functioning correctly, to get it out the right way, I call it. Ended up being in the NICU for 11 days.
Okay.
So yeah, he spent a little time in there, and Wendy took care of him
Oh, right.
in the NICU.
Wendy Knudsen is in the NICU
Yep.
at the Children's.
I was gonna say, when the babies are transferred, do you ever see her, or?
I do. I see her walking out all the time.
Oh.
Since we worked the night shift.
Oh, okay.
And I think we worked on the same weekend. But when I do take patients in to see their babies and she's working, I'll sit and talk to her and see how things are going, kind of thing. And some of our older nursery nurses, when they transitioned out of having a strict nursery nurse, transitioned to the NICU.
So you know quite a few people.
I know quite a few people in the NICU besides the ones that are taking care of Henry.
Dawn, who decides, if somebody comes in, they're expecting a regular delivery, and then there has to be a C-section, or there's a question about, do we have to do this? What's the decision-making, how does that go? Does the nurse make that call? Do you have to have a doctor make that call? How does that go?
It's all doctor. Basically, if the patient's coming in laboring and baby looks great, everything's fine, 3 hours later, baby's not looking real hot, and you call the doctor and say, this is, okay, baby's heart rate's dropped below 100, and it's been down for 2 minutes. There's a 10-minute window. If it gets down too far, like, we don't like it to go below 90, but if it drops down below 90s for approximately 5 minutes, you are rushing it. Even when you call the doctor and say, this is what's going on, we're going back, we will meet you back there, kind of thing. That's as much as decision making, especially if you're trying to readjust the patient. Seeing if position changes will help bring the baby's heart rate back up, oxygen, IV, hydration, all that. If it's not, the doctor makes the call, but once you hit that 5-minute mark, you're rushing back and you're saying, we're meeting you back there. Kind of
So you're making the call?
at that point,
At
yes.
that point.
If you're worried about the baby before that, you're saying, okay, the heart rate's, changed a little bit. Either it's gone up, now it's what we call tachy, 170s, variability. It's the beats between the heart rate. It's starting to look flatline. You're calling the doctor and saying, I want you to come and evaluate this. She's only 2 centimeters dilated, but this baby's not tolerating this. It's been going on for the last 20 minutes. I want you to come in, or I want you to have the in-house doctor evaluate this, but this is not looking good. This is what we've tried, kind of thing. And then they make the decision.
Do you get a lot of pushback, or is there a pretty high level of trust in what you're seeing? And
Kind of depends on the doctors and the
Oh,
groups.
sure.
A lot of our doctors, especially the in-house doctors, we call them OB hospitalists, really have a good trust in our judgment, kind of thing. We're calling them, they know something's going on. They're in-house, they're around the corner in a call room, kind of thing. There are a couple groups that you call and say, this is what I'm seeing, this is what we've tried. Kind of thing, and they're like, what hour? And it's like, no, that's not how we go. So then if it's our patient, we end up going to the charge nurse and saying, look, this is what I'm seeing, you're seeing the same thing, I'm not comfortable with it, I don't know how you're feeling. Usually at that point they're pretty on board with everything, and this is what I've done. I called the doctor, he wants to watch another hour. I said, I'm just not, I want someone to come and evaluate this, and he's not willing. So then she will end up call that doctor back too and say, no, this is not appropriate, kind of thing. And if still there's pushback with that, we kind of go up the chain of command and go to the supervisor. And at that point, one of us also calling the OB hospitalist, because this is something that we don't want a negative outcome. So
It really hurts your customer satisfaction.
yes, it does. That's a big one.
So you have a charge nurse and you have another level supervisor.
Yep, the hospital supervisor.
The hospital.
Yep, and if the hospital supervisor needs to go above, if we have to go above them, there's the, what we call the, the OB administrator supervisor, that we call.
Administrative supervisor. And are those people all around the night shifts, or they're, no?
There's always a hospital supervisor on, because they're going around making sure all the units in the hospital
Oh my gosh.
are working and making sure patients are getting transferred to the correct floors and stuff. But they're also partly too. But usually the ones I've worked with at night, once you get the charge nurse involved and she's like, okay, I'm going to this, they're like, okay, whatever you want, because they're out of their scope. They're like, okay, you go ahead and do what you need to do. I'll back you up, kind of thing.
Can you talk about, I'm always fascinated with people who work a night shift and then there are days, and it seems like a lot of us have things that go on during the day, but are your hours sort of regulated, and how do you manage, what do you do with things that are happening in the daytime, maybe that your children are involved in, or how does that work?
It makes it interesting. I work 12-hour nights. well, they stay 12 nights. So 7 p.m. to 7:30 in the morning is my shift. Basically, during the day, especially during the school year, I put the kids on the bus at 8:30. Now, me knowing I have to work at night, I will take a nap while they're gone. They get home about 4 o'clock. They get off the bus, and by that time I'm awake because I'm getting things ready to go. So I don't see them a whole lot, but I don't necessarily work a lot of days in a row. When it comes to in the summer and the sports and stuff like that, I try to work my schedule around some of their functions so I'm still able to go. You know, they like to play baseball. They do bowling on Saturdays. So I only work every third weekend at United, so I'm still able to go see them bowl. That also being said is my husband works days. And he goes to work at 5:30 in the morning. So with me being at work until 8 o'clock in the morning and my husband leaving for work at 5:30, we have worked out with a couple across the street that also has young kids they adopted. They adopted 3 girls that were his sons, but due to court-appointed custody kind of thing, they adopted them because the parents weren't able to. So, and they're all about the same age too, as the, kind of they fall in between a little bit. But since they're always up early, my husband drops the kids off across the street at 5:30 in the morning. My kids are early birds, so they are up at 5:30 in the morning. No matter what you do. Try to keep them up later, still 5:30. Go to bed earlier, 5:30. It doesn't matter. They're up at 5:30. I think the oldest likes to wake up the youngest, so I think if he could.
So, what's your opinion on midwives and doulas?
Love them. Love them. We don't get a lot of midwives at United, but there's a lot of midwives at St. John's. And you just love them. They're always there. They're always supporting. You know, you've got questions. Great resource. I think doulas also.
Yeah, what do they really do? I never even heard of it.
What's the difference, yeah?
A midwife actually can deliver the baby. They
So is
have
it a
medical
designation, a certificate, or they have a degree of?
They have a midwifery degree.
Okay.
Yep. With a nursing background.
Oh.
That's what that is. That's not necessarily a doctor, but they are certified in delivering babies. Whereas a doula is basically a support person for the person in labor. They kind of can offer suggestions, you know, get them in different positions, just kind of help them concentrate on
Teach them to count.
Yep, counting, breathing, doing a little counter-pressure on the back when there's a lot of back pain, kind of thing. And doulas, patients actually look for and set up. Midwives, they see in the clinic. They see them through their pregnancy. And I would say 90% of the times is the one that they will deliver. Now, if an obstetric emergency comes and the patient needs a C-section, the midwife is not delivering that baby. They have an OB backup that would come and deliver, but the midwife would still go into the delivery room and be with the patient too and take care of her afterwards and the baby.
So is the midwife connected with the hospital then?
The midwife's connected with an obstetric group.
Okay.
There's the Health East midwives. They go to all 3 of the hospitals, St. John, St. Joe's, Health East. They're connected with the Health East.
How is it working with the multicultural community? I mean, because they have children.
Oh, yes, they come in and they pop them out. That's what they do. It makes it quite interesting, especially one thing about St. John's is they've got they call it a voice era system. So if you need like an interpreter that you can't get called to right away, that you're trying to, they have a button that you push and say, interpretive services, I need a Hmong interpreter, where we can communicate with the patient, especially if they don't speak any English, to see, you know, who the doctor is, plans for delivery, kind of things like that, to communicate. Whereas at United, they have called a Marty system. You can't always find the right interpreter through that system, but a lot of Hmong and Hispanics noted more at St. John's than at United. A lot more Somalians at United than St. John's. You kind of get a mix of everything, kind of thing. But again, a lot of those Asian culture come in and basically have a baby, which good for them. Kind of thing. Whereas, you know, at United, you see a lot more medicated deliveries than at St. John's.
Do you see the prenatal care for the different cultures is different, or?
Yes, some you see less prenatal care, especially if it's like their third or fourth baby.
Okay.
That's in their belief system. You don't necessarily need someone to come to you or go see somebody all the time. But then you also, in the younger population, in every culture, you tend to see
Panic.
yes, a lot of panic. You see them. They've been seen for several different things in their pregnancy. You know, backache. Oh, I've got a headache. And the funny thing with that is any pregnant woman that goes to emergency department, even though if it's not OB related, the emergency doctors, oh, she's pregnant, she's got to go to OB. We're not doing anything for that. Like, that's not my scope of practice. Baby's fine, you're going back to the ED kind of thing. But yeah, some cultures, as far as education goes too, they don't seek out any education because they have their elders that are there supporting them. You get a lot of the younger Hmong population coming in, which is a transition from the older, wanting pain management and pain medication, epidurals, whereas their parents are like, no, you don't get any. And trying to have their parents there and then they're requesting something and then they're telling them, no, you can't. It's kind of a big barrier.
Yeah.
Basically, you tell the patient, this is about you, I'm taking care of you. What are your wishes? I don't care what they're saying. If we need to remove them because there's some issue, we will call the emergency department or not the security department and have them removed.
So you can actually do that without,
Yep.
as long as the patient and the baby are fine, or you're tending to them, the others can leave the room.
Yep.
Good.
We like to keep people together with them, but if there's too much intense things going on, and we don't feel safe, and we're not feeling that the patient's going to be safe with us leaving the room, we can, yes. We will at first ask them to step out of the room and go to the waiting room, but if they're becoming more hostile, we will call back up, and if they don't calm down and go to the waiting room, they will be escorted out of the hospital.
Two questions related to the water birthing. Do any of the minority or the ethnic, do they choose water birthing more than, no?
No, really, no.
Okay. And then my second question is, okay, so the mom's in the tub, where's the doctor?
right right next to the tub.
Oh, okay, I was thinking next to the baby food in there.
No. It's a huge tub, you could probably climb in there too, but. The doctors, if you have somebody in the tub, your doctor's in the room.
Okay.
Usually at that point, things are.
Okay, I was just picturing.
No, they've
I
got,
didn't know.
I didn't.
it's kind of like they have gloves that if you were birthing a horse or a cow,
Mhm.
they put those on.
Yeah.
Kind
Okay. I couldn't picture it. You better not be wearing Speedos or anything.
Okay,
I couldn't picture.
so you're getting close. What does close mean to get into a tub of water?
Well, like I said, you have to be at least 4 centimeters to get in, meaning cervix-wise.
Okay.
Dilatation.
Right.
You go from closed, meaning you don't have anything to start, your cervix is starting open. You need to be at a 10 to push the baby out.
Okay. So you can be at a 4 to get in that tub?
Yes, you have to be at least 4, and you have to have a regular contraction pattern, meaning it
Okay.
has to be every 2 to 4 minutes.
Okay.
Palpating strong, meaning that we're feeling her belly and saying, oh yeah, these are pretty strong. She's really uncomfortable, feeling some pressure.
So you're thinking in an hour? In a
Possibly.
half hour?
Possibly, everybody's body's different, even when you put them in the tub.
Yeah.
Some people, you put them in the tub and they're like, oh yeah, I'm great, and now I'm like, I want to get out, and then all of a sudden you get them on the bed and here comes a baby. That's happened multiple times. But yeah,
So you really just have to go with the flow.
yep, it's all with the flow kind of thing. You don't know, you could have someone come in, oh yeah, you're 6 centimeters, you're his 3rd baby, and you're waiting 4 or 5 hours for this kid to come out. Where you have a prime that comes in, meaning first time mom, oh, she's 6 centimeters, she's doing this fine, and 20 minutes later she's having a baby, kind of thing.
Do you think they do too many, like, scheduled C-sections? It seems like you hear so many people have C-sections, and, like, they don't even give them a chance.
Well, it kind of depends on their background.
Right, but I mean, sometimes it's the first baby.
Yeah, first baby. Usually the only reason why they will schedule a section is if they found baby is upside down, so butt's coming in, or legs, and not the head, or if they've had some major trauma. We've had a lot of people that have broken their pelvis in car accidents, and to not aggravate any of that, they opted to schedule C-section. Now, that being said, you have a C-section with your first one, does not necessarily say you have to have a C-section with your second one.
But they like to do it that way, though.
They do like to do that, but now patients have more opted not to. There is a consent form that they do have to sign saying that, okay, these are the risks and benefits of trying to have a vaginal birth after a C-section. But people have done it. People have delivered vaginally after having a C-section. That also being said, is if you've had 2 C-sections, you are now opting to have C-sections for the rest of your pregnancies. That being one that, because you have cut into the uterus, scar tissue forms, and as you get bigger and the baby gets bigger, the scar tissue starts to stretch and kind of becomes thinner. So at sometimes people come in labor, and they've been laboring, and they're having all this incisional pain. One, you're worried that your uterus is starting to rupture, meaning that the incision is starting to open, and if you don't get in there, you may have baby in the abdomen and not into the uterus, kind of thing. Not many of those I've been a part of. But, yeah, depending on, how many babies you've had, they do not recommend having more than 4 C-sections. So, if you can have if your first C-section because baby was breached. It doesn't mean because you weren't in labor or anything, you came in laboring, but the baby's the wrong weight. You're not going to deliver the day. There's not many doctors ever that will deliver.
They used to do it that way.
Yes, there are a couple, if you came in and you were completely dilated and there's like feet hanging in the vagina, that will attempt it. I've seen 2 breech deliveries.
Successful?
Successful. But it's not their first option kind of thing. I've also, with my 3rd pregnancy, Henry, went into labor and was having the incisional pain, and when we got in, my uterus was starting to open up too. So even slight contractions or start any, you tell people if you feel any pain in your incision, anytime during your pregnancy, you're going to call and you're going to come in to be seen, because chances are something's happening with the inside.
Anything else for Dawn?
Admiration.
What'd you say?
Admiration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service.
I'm struck by, when Katie was born, we had outstanding nurses at Bethesda Hospital, just before Bethesda went to long-term care. And we loved the doctor who delivered her. And I'm struck by I don't think about it often, but if I do, I'm struck by the fact that some of the people who were with Michelle and me on one of the most important days of our life, we don't even know their last name.
Yeah.
And yet they came in and helped make the day what it was, and the life what it was, and you're doing that every day. I mean, you get cards and pictures from people, but to show up and do what you're supposed to do and help a life, whether come into the world or grow, admiration is the right word, and thankfulness those are 2 great words. So we're very grateful for what you do and for your sharing it with us today. I want to mention to Sherry Batterman, this is Dorothy Miller's granddaughter. I don't know if you've made that connection or not.
Yeah, I did.
So we're, again, thank you very, very much.
I'd like to say, and Florence Anderson thanks you also. We worked together when Florence had surgery and needed,
Very good.
yeah.
So next Sunday, Trevor Tolley will be back for his second presentation in the My Calling series, because he didn't really finish, and there's been some career developments for him since then. And then Diana Swanson the Sunday after that, and then Pat Hagen the Sunday after that, and then it's Easter, believe it or not. Well, we in the choir know that, right? So Don, thanks again very, very much.